everyone, and welcome to our discussion on how to drive a branded customer experience transformation in a challenging and highly regulated industry. I am Gürol Kurt, co-founder of Alterna CX, and today my guest is David Lloyd. David is an internationally experienced customer experience manager and a design thinking expert at E.ON. As you know, E.ON is one of the strongest operators of European energy networks and energy-related infrastructure with more than 50 million customers. So welcome, Dave. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Today we have a lot to cover. Some of our topics include maximizing opportunities with customers with relatively low contact frequency, customer experience efforts under an enterprise-level program, scalability of the customer experience program, and we will be ending our discussion on some key learnings and suggestions from Dave. So let's get started. My first question, Dave, is in the beginning, how did you ensure organizational engagement for branded customer experience at E.ON as a group?
Yeah, sure. So I think let's go back to the energy industry and where we've come from. So you've already mentioned it's a highly regulated industry. Previously, many years ago, before deregulation in the different countries and energy markets that E.ON operate has happened at different times. And therefore, customer perception has generally been that we are a big monopoly. We don't care about customers and so on and so forth. And actually, over time, particularly, I would say over the last 10 to 15 years, that perception has to change. And it did have to change in order for E.ON to continue to compete in the new decentralized energy world, where new competitors start to come in. So in order for us to really engage or bring a kind of organization at a group level, it's really around starting small. And that's absolutely what we did. So we've always had a number of thought leaders across the E.ON group from different countries that kind of come together on a regular basis talking about CX topics. But you know, it's really about delivering. So stopping talking about what we can do, how we can bring stakeholders, how we can bring an organization along with us, is really about demonstrating the benefit of CX. And in order to do that, you have to change colleagues' perceptions. So you will always have people who are promoters, people who just have this feeling, have this belief, or they've heard from, you know, other organizations, other thought leaders that, you know, CX is really the way forward. It drives value in the organization, drives sustainable growth within the organization. You'll also have a group of people that are a bit in the middle ground, a bit hesitant around, does it work, does it not? And they're a little bit unsure. And then you will always have people in an organization that don't believe that CX is the right thing to focus on. And in order to really engage in the organization, I would say personally, stakeholder management is the biggest challenge to overcome in anything. So how we started here was really small. As a CX function, we had a very clear strategy around what we wanted to do. And that strategy was really based on bottom-up changes within the organization. So looking at customer journeys and what we call core customer journeys, of which 90% of all customer interactions happen throughout there. And from there, we identified a board member. So somebody board who is really passionate about CX, really believes in the value that CX can bring. And we look to the board level as somebody or as a colleague who can really help us to get a CX program off the ground. And programs are a really important thing to mention here. I said start off small. We started off as it being a program. We didn't start off with it as being a big organizational change. It was about proving the benefits and proving the value of focusing on customer experience. So once we had our board member on board, somebody that could really engage more senior stakeholders, really stand behind that and give us the the autonomy to go and work with this. It was really about prioritizing what we focus on. And we decided that we needed to focus on a journey that was quite problematic for us from a business perspective, and one where there was huge value to be had from a business perspective, but also one that was delivering poor experiences to customers. And this one that we focused on was the joining journey. So people who are new to joining E.ON on an energy contract, what is their experience like? And we really focused on that journey. And the reason we chose also that journey is because the person who was responsible for sales was one of those people who wasn't entirely convinced that CX was the right thing. But agreeing with him before we start what it is that we really want to achieve here, that really helped, because we could help in reducing, for example, the cancellation rate. How do we stop customers or prevent customers from cancelling? How do we change that behavior? How do we move more customers through the sales funnel? So that's kind of how we got him engaged, and we turned him from this kind of person who wasn't convinced to somebody who was a real supporter of CX. And that was really through a robust approach that we took. So it was very much based on voice of the customer. So what's the insight? What's the research? What's the customer behavior around that? Really designing around those customer challenges, but also the business challenges as well, to ensure that we are addressing both of those things. The second thing we did was to create what we call customer dashboards for an end-to-end journey. And I'll talk a little bit about dashboards in a second, because I think these are the things that really helped to kind of give us this organizational shift, and not just an organizational shift, but a behavioral shift also. That helps us then also to track the success, reducing cancellation rates, reducing inbound customer demand, which drives cost into the organization. Ultimately, the big thing is about doing stuff, delivering stuff for customers, demonstrating the benefit, and celebrating the successes that we have seen. It's really important to celebrate the success, and in some cases, let your stakeholders take all the praise for the work in order to then kind of change them. And just a very quick note on the dashboards. So the dashboards that we created were from end to end. So the start of the journey right to the end. And we rewrote the definitions of measures. And the definitions of the measures were from a customer perspective. So for example, average speed of answer is generally something that we would focus on from a call center perspective. So how long it takes a customer to get through. We redefined that metric and put it in customer language. So I had to wait for more than 30 seconds to get through. So we would then display what the percentage of customers during that journey had to wait longer than 30 seconds to get through. That then is really powerful, because every day our senior leaders are looking at metrics, but it really puts a different lens on the metrics, and also puts a kind of sense of feeling onto that metric to say, well, wow, our customers are telling us they had to wait a long time, and a large proportion of our customers going through this journey have had to wait quite a considerable amount of time, or more time than what they expect to wait. So I guess in summary, how we ensured organizational engagement is, one, ensuring we bring our stakeholders with us, changing the perception of our stakeholders, delivering, demonstrating the benefits and measuring those benefits, and more importantly, celebrating the success. And through starting off small and being able to deliver all those things, naturally, other stakeholders, not just from within a country that you're working in, but also at a group level and also at a peer level in the other countries, naturally people start to become much more interested in customer experience because they're seeing the value and the benefit that is being delivered.
I think I heard a lot of things that need to happen to ensure organizational engagement, like you mentioned. So it definitely it's not easy. You like you said, you need stakeholder management. You need prioritization. Beginning with the battlegrounds, with the with the pain areas that hurt most. And celebrating success together, like you said. So that always that's kind of one of the challenges. Organizational engagement is one of the challenges. What I would like to ask you is there is another big challenge as well, especially in your experiences, because energy is an industry that has a relatively low contact frequency and relatively lower engagement when compared to some other industries. So how did you manage to maximize the opportunities you had with the customers in such an industry?
Yeah. Yes, because of the low engagement that we have. So we've conducted some research and looking at insights. So on average, customers tend to spend around 10 minutes per year either thinking about or dealing with their energy provider. 10 minutes is not a lot of time to do what we would like to do with customers or to keep them engaged. So we have to think about different ways and how we can do that. And ultimately, how we do that is really pick off what are the times that we want to engage, what are the journeys that we want to keep customers engaged with. That's one of the aspects. The second aspect, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail, but the second aspect is around providing a consistent, seamless experience across the whole thing. You know, let's be really honest. Energy customers don't want to engage with their energy suppliers. All they want is supply to come in that is consistent. It works. When they press the light switch, the light comes on. When they plug the phone charger in, the phone charges. They want an accurate bill based on what they use. That is what ultimately what customers want. They don't really want to engage with us, but we need to make sure that we are delivering a seamless, consistent, brilliant experience throughout the year and delivering on those basics that they expect from us. Secondly, is those points that we pick out. And the points that we pick out are the ones that are actually quite valuable to us as an organization. So these are journeys such as renewing their contract. So customers will come up for a renewal. And also an example of around moving home. Lots of people move home each year, and moving home poses a big risk in terms of churn risk. Customers often really do not have the time to focus or think about really changing energy supplier. So what we do in home move is really look at this from a customer perspective, as we do in all of our journeys. So when a customer moves home, they don't move home when they contact E.ON to tell us that we're moving home. They start their journey much longer before, months, if not years before. So we need to start to engage with those customers early in that journey so that we are always front and center of their mind from an energy perspective. We position ourselves as being helpful. How can we help you with moving home? We have, multiple products in terms of, energy saving products, solar products, heating products, so on and so forth. How can we help you with that move? And we start to engage with customers during that process. So this is even before they would contact us. So, through email, through SMS, through letter, if that's the kind of chosen method. So we always look where there is a big opportunity for us as a provider, and where it's really important to us. We look to engage with customers much earlier in that journey than what we would do in terms of waiting for them to contact us, so that we can always start that engagement, be in the customer's minds of E.ON is here to help me. And the other thing we've got to think about within the moving journey is people will be contacting multiple organizations throughout their move. Is how can we be a step ahead of them in terms of experience delivered, in order to say, do you know what, throughout this whole process, E.ON delivered the best experience for me. They were just so easy to deal with. They took some of the stress of moving home away, as an example. So we always look to design experiences for customers where engagement is critical for us as an organization, but also as a value add for customers in those journeys. So it's all about understanding customers and designing the right experiences for engagement.
It sounds like there is a lot of thinking done behind each journey stage. Like the examples you shared, you are touching processes, you are touching probably certain services, offerings. So a lot of different units in the organization needs to work together in alignment in order to make it happen. My next question will be around actually that. Can you tell us the story, how you are orchestrating all these efforts under like an enterprise level initiative, enterprise level CX program?
Yeah, sure. I think, you know, this is kind of heavily related to my answer to the first question. So, you know, you kind of get buy-in from leaders, you get interest from leaders, and actually what was recognized is, yes, this should just be a way of working now. And this should be a way of working across not just 1, 2, or 3 countries, but this should be a way of working across all of the countries that we are in. So the brand is there. So this was really about saying, well, where is the best practice? Where does the best practice exist in terms of design capability, journey management capability, and performance management capability around customer experiences, and more importantly, journeys as part of that. So we kicked off a big global program in 2014 with the aim of doing absolutely that. So that was about taking the framework for CX and delivering that framework in all of the countries in where we are, ensuring that we have clear views on what are the capabilities that are required in order to deliver what is needed to be delivered in terms of the design. What would a journey manager look like? What would their expertise be? What would their role look like day to day? What would a journey owner look like, for example? So we also, as part of the framework, introduced a level within the organization, which was board -1, somebody who was going to be accountable for the end-to-end experience of that journey. And we applied, I guess, journey ownership to each of our core journeys in every single region to ensure that we are driving improvement and driving performance. I guess, yes, we had, as part of that, we had a very a tight framework. Whether tight framework is, you know, is the right word, but it was a very clear framework in which we were working in, and that's because, you know, that was deemed as the best practice, and that's what needed to happen in each of the regions for us to you know, in some cases, start this kind of CX journey, of which, you know, we you know, I talk about today some of these countries that have recently introduced CX and the framework that we introduced in 2014 going into 2015. They are, you know, the results are absolutely astounding. The culture, the organization, the results that we see from these are nothing short of amazing from there. So this for me is ensuring that we have a governance from a global perspective, ensuring that we have a consistent CX framework across each of our countries. We have the right capabilities that are needed to design, deliver, and track great customer experiences. And also, which is critical here, is the VOC, is the voice of the customer aspect, because it's the voice of the customer that feeds this, that really helps us to understand where are the challenges, where are the opportunities, and therefore how do we design for that? How do we stay ahead of our competition? That is absolutely critical. But yeah, having a clear, robust framework in which to work in, being as clear as we possibly can, bringing expertise in from other countries to help with the implementation of this framework within the other countries. And yes, the whole governance then from a global perspective really helped to deliver that robust framework over 2014 to 2016, which is when we did that.
Actually, maybe at this point I can also share my experiences, because I had similar experiences to the ones you mentioned. Before we wrap up, let me elaborate on them. Before Alterna, actually, I was the director of customer experience at a telco group called Telia Sonera. It was known as Telia Sonera. Now it's Telia company. So I was the director of customer experience there, and we initiated a sales framework which we called the Purple Promise. By the way, purple is the brand color of Telia, so that's where purple is coming from. And under this program, it was a group level initiative. We selected 3 emotions: trust, satisfaction, and special. Then we reshaped everything, basically our offerings, touch points, cultural change approach, processes, everything to provoke these emotions in our customers across all the countries in the group. So it's, the motto was, we do something, it makes our customers feel something. So our behaviors should be consistent, like you mentioned everywhere, and we should be aiming for these emotions. So all our sales-related framework were built in alignment with Purple Promise principles. Yep. Like your case, we also saw significant increase in Net Promoter Score as well as loyalty, customer churn as well. Yep. Let's wrap up, and I have a final question. When you consider all these experiences that you mentioned, what would be your key learnings and suggestions for our audience regarding how to build and drive a branded customer experience transformation program in their companies or groups?
Yeah. So it's probably a kind of recap on what I've talked about. For me, very, very simply, is stakeholder engagement. Bring the doubters along, prove them wrong, but bring them along on the journey. It's important that they're involved in the journey to really feel what it's like, because my experience of CX is it's fun, and it should be fun. Everyone should have fun whilst they're working. It makes it a far greater place to be. So bringing your stakeholders along and letting them experience that journey, I think is the first thing for me. The second thing for me is deliver. Constantly focus on delivering and demonstrating the benefits along. So not just looking at the customer metrics, so whether that's NPS, whether it's CSAT, or whether it's a customer effort score, it's about really demonstrating the benefits in the commercial numbers. These are the things that senior leaders are focused on. So they're the things that we need to really demonstrate the benefits in that. Thirdly is cross-functional collaboration. You cannot do CX. CX does not work if it's within one team. It doesn't work. We have to come together as a cross-functional, cross-expertise team of people to deliver the same to deliver what we need to deliver, and ultimately we are all heading towards the same the same target. And lastly, for me, is the celebration of success. CX can be really, really hard at times. It can be really hard, and often, in my experience, quite lonely, because it can be a battle. It can be hard to do that. And to really celebrate the successes that you have really helps, I guess, personally, from my perspective, deal with those lows and sometimes the battles that you face every day. And more importantly for me is, seeing the success from a customer perspective, because ultimately they're the ones that are telling you whether you're doing a good job or not.
Dave, I think we covered our topics today. I would like to thank you very much for your participation. I think it was a very insightful conversation. Is there any last word you would like to add before we close our session?
No, I don't think there's nothing at this point I'd like to have, but obviously, other than to thank you for the opportunity to share my experiences.
It's our pleasure. Thank you, our listeners, as well, for your participation. If you have any questions or suggestions for future topics, please feel free to contact us and let us know at info@alternativex.com. And you can also find related information content on the website, alternativex.com, under the resources tab. So until next time, goodbye, everyone.